From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller, and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. The issue of gun violence on the streets of Cincinnati, something that has dominated the news in 2025. There have been many questions about what's being done to at least attempt to address what appears to be a challenge that continues to grow instead of slow. But imagine this vision. Every Cincinnati neighborhood will be safe, thriving and free from violence. All residents, especially young folks, will have the opportunity to achieve their potential with access to education, employment, and social services. Also imagine the goal to have communities where folks feel empowered and violence is reduced at its source. You know, at the beginning of 2025, the city released a 50-page document called Act for Cincinnati, ACT, which stands for Achieving Change Together. The initiative was touted as a blueprint, you might say, for violence reduction, developed on the notion that change must occur in at least 5 key areas: thriving neighborhoods, reducing youth access to firearms, improved well-being, improved youth support, and policing initiatives. So today, I want to look at where we stand today as we talk about this blueprint. And with me, 3 people who will be able to discuss this and give us a lot of information. First of all, Interim Chief Henney, Adam Henney, Collaborative Agreement Sustainability Consultant Iris Rowley, and finally, Assistant to the City Manager, Kate Bell. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and talking about this. So take us back to the beginning when this idea came up to present this document at the beginning of the year. I remember when it was announced, but you know, that was the beginning of the year. People forget. So.
Absolutely. I think that you've been hearing for years from City Hall that the #1 issue that we need to tackle is gun violence in our community as it's been growing. And we really wanted to take a holistic approach, so not just having to lean on only the police to help us solve this problem, but really bringing community in to address root causes, and developed that blueprint with them to figure out where we needed to really make an impact.
Yeah, what's impressive is all of the groups that you dealt with, organizations. This was not just a one and done. There's a whole list of organizations. Iris, I know that you reached out to a lot of people, got them involved, and just hearing from them what needs to be done in neighborhoods.
Well, Curtis, let me say this. You ask about the beginning. The beginning is the collaborative agreement. So what you see is moving forward through the collaborative agreement, listening to communities, being able to learn from what previously happened. And we just have an administration in the city and a police department that has lived through the heavy lifting of the goals of the collaborative agreement, and then hearing community. So all of the people that are part of sustaining what we've learned from and trying to be innovative and move forward through Act for Cincy are this, the same individuals that have been working collaboratively together for a multitude of years to achieve the goals. So whether it is mentors or juvenile courts or JFS or, the city, which has done a tremendous amount of growth through the agreement, that I just wanted to say that as a plaintiff in the federal lawsuit, that I've seen innovation in a way that I've never seen before. So those necessary organizations and individuals that have come together to be part of Act for Cincy have been around, and they understand the movement that we need to see to achieve change together.
Yeah, Chief, you know this as well as anyone. 26 years on the force, so you know that the public sees the event. They just see there was a shooting, there was a brawl or something, and there's so much focus on that, and they're not seeing a lot of things that are going on day to day, but behind the scenes. A little bit about that.
Sure.
I know that must be a challenge.
Well, what's great about the 26 years that I've been on is I've policed here pre-collaborative and also afterwards. And with the partnerships with Iris and the city manager, we have this opportunity now where it's not just the police, and we've been working on that for decades now. You know, a lot of times when these high-profile incidents occur, it's what are the police doing? What are we going to do about that?
Right.
Well, we're just one lever on the machine now, and that's what's so great about Act Cincy is we're just one small piece of the solution where everyone else is coming together to find those long-term goals or to be able to, have the strategies to meet those long-term goals and not just focus on the police and the specific incident.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, and I just came across the article as I've been going through some old papers, where Elliot Isaacs said, you have to, and I'm paraphrasing, you really have to get into the neighborhoods. You really have to make people feel like they're part of the process. If you can do that, he said at the time that you have some success. Agree?
And that's exactly it. We frequently, as police, we go into the neighborhoods and we can talk about statistics all the time. We can walk in there and say, shootings are down 20%. We have more than 70 less shooting victims than this time last year. But the fact of the matter is the community needs to be heard, and perception is 9/10 of the rule. I can tell you all day long about how low crime has been over the last 3 years or over the last 12 months. But if you don't feel safe, then we didn't meet that goal. So we have to be in those communities. We have to work collaboratively with the other people that are involved with Act Cincinnati to make sure that the community knows that we hear them and we're going to do everything we can to make them feel safe in the neighborhoods that they live in.
Let me take a break and we'll pick up right at that point because I want to find out what people are saying. Do they feel safe? So we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. We're having a fascinating discussion about how people feel in the city in terms of how safe do they feel, and we're talking about Act for Cincinnati, a great initiative, a vision to make this a safe city. So that becomes the question, do people feel safe? What are you hearing from people?
I actually think that's been a lot of the discrepancy in the data and success that we've seen this year through ACT. So Chief just listed some of those great data points, but people are telling us that they don't feel any safer. And I think that that's why ACT is so important. We have so many other levers to pull in addition to the great work that the police are doing to make sure neighborhoods feel clean and that the people aren't feeling disorder, to address our homelessness challenges and make sure that people are getting the support that they need. And that holistic approach really, I think, can actually make the impact on how people feel as well.
Iris?
Curtis, safety is relative. You can ask different people if they feel safe, and I typically do. We ask the question, especially in the Black community. We say, close your eyes and tell us the last time you felt safe. But safety is a responsibility of all of us, and it's not just a responsibility of the city of Cincinnati, the structure of city of Cincinnati or the police. Safety is for all of us. It's for business, it's for nonprofits, it's for religious and non-religious organizations, for adults to do the best that they can. And so when we talk about safety, and especially when we bring in the apparatus of a gun and ammunition, we have to really walk that back to begin to have honest dialogue, like when did you feel safe and what has now become an issue of safety. We need to really look at the state and what it has done to the whole entire state with the constitutional carry. What does that bring? It makes it harder for those people who are trying to begin to think about safety in a way that is safe, because the state says you can have guns, and it makes it very difficult. It makes it very difficult for people who don't have access to income at an equitable level, the jobs, the education, housing, food. And so all these things can interrupt how people feel safe. And we have to be about coming together. That's why Act for Cincy is so important, so that we can tackle those things that will make people feel unsafe. It's not just a small issue, it's a huge issue. And that's why this particular movement around Act for Cincy will allow all of us to sit at the table and talk about what safety means for individuals, because it is relative to those individuals. It's not a one-time thing or one issue thing.
And I know people feel frustrated because it appears people have gotten just so brazen and just very mean-spirited on what might be a relatively simple thing. I mean, I'm afraid to bump into somebody for fear that slight bump, unintentional, will lead to a discussion and or a fight. And I'm too old to fight. Is that part of it? It's just gotten so brazen.
Well, just to build off of what they were saying is, we're doing so much great work to improve the safety of Cincinnati. And I think where we were falling a little bit short is to be able to articulate all the things that we've been doing over the years. And I think that's what's wonderful about Act Cincy is we're able now to articulate to the public that not only is it just not the police just going out and being visible, but all of these longer term goals of helping people deal with situations like that and being able to understand everything that the city is trying to do in so many different angles. I think that's where we're improving is our message. The work has already been done. It's being able to show people what we've been doing and what we can do to improve their public safety.
Well, I will ask you this after the break because the media plays a huge role in this. And I want to get your take on how that plays into the day-to-day imaging and messaging throughout the city. So let's take another break and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking safety in Cincinnati and Act for Cincinnati. It's a great initiative that's really rolled out at the beginning of the year. And we're just saying, where do we stand with that? Because we know people are feeling something maybe that is different from the actual numbers. I threw into the mix here the role of the media. So I've been doing this now for nearly 50 years. So I know the impact of images and messaging. You know, we have a job to do, police have a job to do, and other city officials have jobs to do. So, but what impact, especially this year, because we had some high profile cases and we saw the video over and over and over, how does that factor into what you do, how you do it?
Of course. You know, yes, we've had a lot of high-profile incidences that have been, you know, covered by the media this year. But I also know all the hard work that the men and women of the Cincinnati Police Department have been doing. I mean, this was a very high-impact summer, a lot of events occurring, a lot of incidences occurring. And these men and women just, I mean, I couldn't be any more prouder than to wear the same uniform that they do. Phenomenal work by all of them. And I take that opportunity with the media, with this coverage, to use that as a positive to be able to showcase what we are doing. So if the media wants to talk about an incident or trends or anything like that, I welcome that because I know that my officers are doing everything they can above and beyond to work hard to make the city safe, and that just gives me an opportunity to showcase that hard work.
Yeah. Iris?
So, Mr. Fuller, you know I'm going to lean into that from the community's aspect. It's no secret that, in particular in the Black community, we often have said to the media, show real things that are occurring in our community so you don't create these continuous conflicts. It can feed into the negativity of what you may perceive about someone. And as someone has been a target of the media recently, well, for the past 25 years, the collaborative has been something that people wanted to talk about, whether they didn't understand why the federal lawsuit was filed and whether they didn't want to follow the great work that has been done for almost 25 years and whether they didn't understand. But now you kind of get it. But when we all kind of row collectively together, and we've said this across the country as we talk about how do you reform systems, including community. How does police work better with community? It's by the images that we see on TV and what's being reported. So when we talk about the work on Government Square, for instance, I could have not achieved any of the goals without working with CPD, without working with this fine gentleman, without making sure that the city administration gave the resources and understood what we were doing. So this three-legged stool has been working, and that is the beauty, and that is what people need to see, as opposed to saying, well, she's anti, community is anti.
And it's okay to have disagreements.
It's okay.
And if those disagreements are transparent, that's fine. I think sometimes we get bogged down, not media, but just overall, we just get bogged down in the process. And
we just can't see our way. Sometimes I think we get in the way. And sometimes I think, too, when you talk about the media, and the social media is a space for young folk that is just so chaotic. And, you know, while we're trying to build a better, bigger, brighter future for them, we have this thing that's just out there that is, you know, in their ears and they see it all the time, of what is so very negative about life. So we need to be about how do we make it so that our young folk can participate in these great things, but actually see the beauty of moving forward in life through them. And oftentimes I don't think that they do. We are on social media chasing the kids around, trying to figure out where they're going, but we see the negative side of that. We need to be able to see the beauty of it and help them see the beauty of life. This is where we are right now. So, yeah.
That's an interesting take. Kate?
I think that part of the challenge is that this is such an urgent problem to solve, that when you are experiencing violence or gun violence, that you want this problem solved tomorrow, and that is right. That is correct. This is also a massive challenge to tackle. This is a generational challenge to tackle. And through Act for Cincy, we are working toward root cause and actually getting to the heart of why this is occurring, not just putting a Band-Aid on the challenge. And that's not an easy message to deliver. It's actually very difficult for people who are experiencing this every day, but it doesn't.
Because it's holistic.
It is. It is.
You've
And
used that word.
if we don't tackle the root cause of these challenges, we are not going to solve the problem.
I love these people. Do you hear them? You hear this language? Maybe we need a action team with media and let Curtis.
I would love that.
Let Mr. Fuller lead that action team.
Well, okay, she's making me work. I know I'm going to take my final break now. We'll be back in a moment. Interim Chief Adam Henne, Iris Rowley, and Kate Bell with a fascinating discussion. So where do we stand right now? Do you feel good about this year and as we get ready to walk into 2026?
Yes, I do. I feel very optimistic with us implementing Act Cincy, being actively involved. You know, the great thing about the police involvement with Act Cincy is not only has some of the colonels been involved in this, but I was lucky enough to also be the commander of downtown when we were dealing with issues at Government Square and Fountain Square when Act Cincy was starting to be implemented. So I have kind of like a leg up on knowing this intimately inside and out. So very optimistic. A lot of the things that we've been implementing in the police department to help improve public safety, but then also just, for example, and I know Iris is going to talk about the Goldstein Award, just being able to show that collaboratively, year by year, we are getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and talk about that. This is
Sure.
a national award?
It's an international problem-solving award that Cincinnati was selected out of a multitude of nominations. We were the only city in the United States of America that made it to the 5 finalists. And it was because of the work of then Captain Henne. He was Captain Henne then when I hit Government Square, and being able to work closely with the captain of the downtown business district around such a very sensitive
And
issue.
you rallied around that immediately.
Oh
I
my
remember.
goodness!
Yeah.
I think he wanted to just give me a uniform and say, "Get to work." But the beauty of being able to see problem solving in this particular way, using Sarah, the beauty of being able to see community coming into a space that had been so hostile, and I didn't know it was as hostile until Interim Chief Henney told me, and then to be able to go down and to be able to scan and say to him, "Listen, we're about to feed kids." He was one of the first individuals to bring gift cards because he watched us to allow community to come in and ask police to step back, let them do what they need to do, let them mother, father, uncle, big sister, big brother them, let them be the presence that we need so that we don't end up on Channel 5 because of a child may have had a bad day and just was acting inappropriately once they get to the transit site. So what we did was we reduced violence, we reduced arrests, we built major relationships with kids, and we also, and I think that I don't know how we lift this up even greater, is we showed the children how to interact with the people who are there to protect and serve them also.
Right.
Where they may have come to Government Square or to any of the suburban transit sites with these preconceived notions, right, that we put on them, that they may see on TV or on the internet, and we allowed them to watch us interact. One young lady, and I'll say this and I'll be quiet, said to me, "Are you the police?" I said, "Yes, I'm policing them and you as well." So yes, we were. We didn't win. We lost to New Zealand. I told now Interim Chief Henney that I was going to make our own Goldstein Award and say that we were winners. But yes, it was a great project.
Kate, put a bow on this for us in terms of how people can get this information. I mean, first of all, the entire document is online. People should really read through it, because it's inspiring. We have a few seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to the city's website and find all this information under the city manager's page. And it's not only the full document, we have a list of other pages and resources where you can go. You can click on a link and go directly to the City of Cincinnati's police page as well, so that you can get connected to CPOP and problem solving, and truly come talk to us. Like, I have never been more hopeful, not only sitting next to these two people, but with the sheer amount of people who have been asking to get involved and coming in our front door, as well at our new office downtown in OTR.
Wow, thank
On
you.
Main
Thank
Street.
you. Well, thank you for joining me today. This is a fascinating conversation. We'll talk about it much more in the future. Hey, that does it for the program today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Curtis Fuller. Till next time, have a good day and a better day tomorrow.